If you've never made a wooden box before, or even if you have, you should check out today's project. I'm going to show you step by step how to create this box, complete with a bright ribbon on top. It'll make a great gift presentation for any occasion. Let's get started. What I found just recently on Steve Good's site was this pattern right here for he's calling it a small gift box. And what's interesting about it is there's the ribbon that's made out of wood as well as the box. I thought, quite a concept. So I got to make one of those, see what it looks like. So I chose you need 1/4 inch material for the top and the bottom. I just happened to pick up some 1/4 inch oak at my supplier not too long ago. In fact, I think it was last weekend. And then you need something 3/4 or so for the middle part of the box. And I was going to go, he's showing a light material here. I was going to go with maple, and then when I went to dig out the maple, I realized there was some zebra wood on top of it, and then I thought, I got to try this. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use maple for the top and bottom, zebra wood for the middle part of the box, and I'm going to use poplar for the bow, and because I want to paint that red. I cut 2 pieces of oak, 6 inches by 6 inches. That's a little bit bigger than needed, but obviously you want a little bigger to start with. I cut a piece about 6 by 6 out of the zebra wood, and then I found some 1/4 inch poplar which we use for part of the ribbon, and 3/4 inch poplar for the other part of the ribbon. So all in all, it doesn't take a lot of material. And let me apply the patterns, and then we'll go to the scroll saw. The instructions say to use the smallest drill bit you have on hand to make the pilot hole, the 3/4 inch thick piece that will make the top and bottom sides of the box. The reason is that you want a hole as close in diameter as you can get to the blade size, so the blade will just barely fit. This is 3/4 inch zebra wood, and it's fairly dense, so I chose a number 9 Pegasus modified geometry blade. It would fit through a 1/16 diameter pilot hole, so that's the size drill bit I used. A little bit of the pilot hole will remain on either side of the cut line, so you want the hole as small as possible. The first cut will start at that pilot hole, then go all the way around the square shape with gently rounded corners. This shape is easy enough for even a beginner to cut. Just follow the lines as close as you can and let the blade do the work. You'll need another pilot hole as a starting place for the middle piece, which will be removed. Since this piece will not be used to make the box itself, be sure to drill the pilot hole on the waist side. That way it won't show at all. I make a lot of toys, so I'll be able to use the waist piece from the middle to make zebras for a couple of Noah's Arks. When I show off the Arks in my retail store, I love to point out that the zebras are made from zebra wood. This piece is going to be glued to the 1/4 inch oak bottom. The waist piece, as I already mentioned, will be saved for future projects. Next, I'll make the outside cut for the box. There are just 4 rounded corners with straight lines in between. Very straightforward. The corner where I started the cut was a little rough, but I can sand that down. Now we have the 2 parts to the box, the inside and outside. They'll nest together perfectly since they were cut from each other. While I've got the number 9 blade in the saw, I'll go ahead and cut the 3/4 inch thick part for the ribbon. There are 2 pilot holes in this piece to cut out the sections, which will make this look like a ribbon tied into a bow. There's a sharp corner on each side of this piece, and it takes a little bit of skill to make these. One way is to cut from the pilot hole to the point, then back the blade to the pilot hole, pivot the piece 180 degrees, then back the blade to the intersection. It's now lined up to follow the line around the rest of the cut. One of the great features of the Pegasus scroll saw is that the arm holds in the upper position while you're making blade changes. This makes it easy to thread the blade through the pilot hole, then you can tighten the upper blade holder. With a little practice, you can make steep angled cuts like the one here by cutting to the intersection, backing the blade off slightly, pivoting the workpiece to the new cutting direction, then starting the cut back up again. Since the 1/4 inch top and bottom are identical, I used glue painter's tape to hold the 2 pieces of material together and attach the pattern to the top piece with spray adhesive. This has 2 advantages. First, the top and bottom will be identical since they were cut at the same time. Second, you can cut 2 pieces in the same time it would take to cut only one. When you're done cutting, you simply have to peel off the tape. The only thing left is the 1/4 inch part of the bow. I'd normally switch to a smaller blade for this, but since I have made so many cuts with this blade, it's getting dull. The cuts on this part will all be straight, No small blade needed for detail, so I'm just going to slow the blade down. Rather than try to make any sharp inside pivots, I'm going to make straight cuts to the edge of the wood, then come back from the outside to finish the cuts. The top and bottom are only a quarter-inch thick, so I think a round over using a router would be too much. I just used a piece of 150 grit sandpaper by hand to remove the sharpness from the edges of both sides of the top and bottom. For the sides, you want the bottom to sit flush against the top and bottom of the box, so I just used the sandpaper to soften what will be the exposed edges of the sides. There was a rough spot on the inside edge because I started to cut there, so I used a small file to smooth that out. This is much easier to do before you glue the pieces together, so make sure you smooth out any spots like this before you start putting the box together. You can see the small indentation here from where the pilot hole was drilled. You can't sand this out without leaving a bigger indentation, so just leave it. This is why you need to use the smallest possible bit for the pilot hole. If you align the two pieces with the remnant of the pilot holes facing one another, the grain will be running in the same direction for both sides of the box. I'll start the glue up with what will be the bottom of the box. I buy glue in gallon bottles because it's cheaper that way. Then I use the gallon bottle to refill small bottles like this one that originally held Elmer's white school glue. It has a fine tip, which is perfect for applying glue to small surfaces like this edge. I use white glue on most of my projects because it dries clear. It's water-based, so I can use my finger to spread it, and it easily wipes or washes off my finger later. One advantage of using your finger rather than a glue brush is that you never have to worry about misplacing it. I just placed the middle piece on top by eye, then checked the distance with a ruler. I was only about 1/32 off. Not too shabby. I used the same procedure on the second side. You want to make double sure the top and bottom will align when the box is closed, so I slid the top in place and used a square to align the edges perfectly. This is also your check to make sure the top will slide on smoothly. Once checked, though, you want to take the top off to let the glue dry. In case there's any squeeze out on the mating edges of the box, this will prevent inadvertently gluing the box into one piece and ruining the whole project. You need to clamp the pieces while the glue dries, and you have a choice on how to go about this. The medium-sized spring clamps are a good choice for this project. If you don't have many clamps or a type that wouldn't work well for this application, I can suggest an alternate method. Set the pieces on a flat surface, like this piece of MDF I have on my bench top. Put another flat piece on top, add some weights. This will provide evenly spaced downward pressure. That's it for the glue up. We'll let this dry. And while that's drying, I'm going to take the ribbon and I will paint it bright red. I don't think I need to show you how to paint. Here's the completed gift box. I spray painted the ribbon bright red, then glued it onto the top. After the glue dried, I gave the entire box a couple coats of spray polyurethane. I usually use a matte finish, but I used a semi-gloss for this project. I made this at Christmas time, but this box would make a great presentation for a small gift item at any time of the year. There were no difficult parts to cut for this box, so even a beginner could make it. Please give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. I usually release a new project or tips video once a week, most of the time featuring the scroll saw. If you'd like more information on the Pegasus scroll saw or Pegasus modified geometry blades, I left an affiliate link in the description.